The Macau Grand Prix, the 72nd Macau Grand Prix, and welcome to Macau with sunshine here today. And this is good news because we've had a little bit of rain overnight, and therefore the circuit just a little bit green first thing this morning. We've just had 40 minutes of free practice for Formula 4 cars around the gear circuit, and you could see that there were some areas of really quite dark tarmac which is drying out, but now the sunshine has come out. This is good news for the final free practice session of 2025, because after this today we are all about qualifying. All the free practice sessions are complete for today, with the conclusion of 40 minutes of free practice for the FIA FR World Cup. In the box here, Alan Hyde looking down on the pit lane and the start-finish line, joined once again this year by David Addison, and it's great to have so many single-seaters over the course of this weekend. This is the one that the eyes of the motorsport world are on, the prestigious Macau Grand Prix.
For the 72nd running, it all began in 1954 as a road sports race, running being the operative word, because in those days it was a Le Mans style start where the drivers ran to the cars. But the event has evolved, the circuit has evolved, Macau as a pace has evolved, and it is now the focus of the end of the season, and the Grand Prix itself going back to its earlier iteration, in a sense of taking people from around the world and putting them all on this level playing field for a shootout, whereas in the final years of Formula 3 it had moved away from that really, because it was just a non-championship race for the regulars in FIA Formula 3 Championship. But now you've got people from the European, from the Oceania, from the Japanese Formula Regional Championships all going toe-to-toe, and that's your European champion, Freddie Slater, who raced in these cars here last year but crashed on the last lap when he tried to make a move. He was here 2 years ago in F4, and he starts as one of the favourites. There is Owen Tangavalu, the Vietnamese driver for the French Sansalot team, a squad that operates in GT racing and rallying and single-seaters as well.
What was that quote you gave us from Freddie Slater yesterday from last year? Well, I had to go for it, didn't I?
That's right, it was Macau. Yes.
Yes. Great quote, great quote.
We got a really, really good lineup for the FIA FR, Formula Regional World Cup, the Macau Grand Prix. And as we get through the session, we'll pick out some of the stars, because there are multiple drivers here with good CVs. There you're looking at Mari Boyer coming back into this type of car, having been racing in Formula 3 for the last couple of seasons. He was a Formula Regional racer back in 2023, and that was the last year that we had the Grand Prix for Formula 3 cars. He was fourth in the Macau Grand Prix that year. He was seventh last year, and this year finished third within FIA F3 with a race win. Number 3 you can see there also is Jin Nakamura, who was had a third place, to be 10th in the European Formula Regional Championship. He's also done a bit of sports car racing in the Le Mans Cup in LMP3 this year. Mattia Colnaghi recently signed to the Red Bull Junior team, driver to watch. He comes here as the Euro Cup 3 champion and last year's Spanish F4 champion. And Matteo De Paolo there, who in the last week has become signed, as you can see from the livery at the back, to McLaren, part of their driver development programme now. So clearly the F1 team there sees something in him.
Moving into FIA F3 for next year, and runner-up in Formula Regional, the European Championship this year, Matteo De Paolo. So 40 minutes of free practice, and as we get ready to see the cars out on circuit, we had the first session of the day declared to be a wet track. We've not had any information to the contrary, so I wonder if that means that the wet track standing for the gear circuit carries over into this session as well. Whatever, it's going to be qualifying this afternoon. They had one qualifying session yesterday at the end of yesterday afternoon. 10 to 4 we got that session underway yesterday, slightly earlier today, so they have a shorter gap between free practice and qualifying. So look after your cars, everybody, because in just a couple of hours we're going to be going into qualifying 2 for the Macau Grand Prix.
Green flag shown, everybody then sets off down the pit lane, and we are good to go. 40 minutes on the clock, and the times from yesterday's free practice session are going to be of interest. It's really more comparing now with what they were doing in qualifying, but again, we have to come back to the point of needing to stay out of trouble, to keep it off the concrete, and in order to get a rhythm, get the laps in. It's all about learning this, and you can't learn if school is closed. If you sat in the pit lane under a red flag, you're not doing any learning whatsoever. So important that drivers keep it away from the barriers. Interestingly as well, a number of cars still in the pit lane, trying to let the first wave go, if you like, and then be released out into traffic. In case you're wondering how the order is decided, because if you're pit out, you're always going to have a slight advantage because you're going to be first on the road. The allocation of the garages goes in order of the team's results the previous year. And then, if you weren't here last year, and there were two teams, Trident and VAR, that didn't do last year's Grand Prix, they are given the garages in order of their entry being received. Simple as that. So they are at the pit-in end, Trident ahead of Van Amersfoort Racing. All the other teams that were here last year, their garage allocation order is in the order that the teams finished the Grand Prix last year. Make sense?
It makes absolute sense, yeah. And there had to be some kind of a way that it was done, and it does make it a little bit of a race to get your new entry in as well, because there is an advantage to getting your entry in nice and early. It's interesting to see that some of them are held back down in pit lane to buy them that track space. It's sometimes useful to be going around the circuit in a pair, or maybe 2 or 3 cars together, but when you're in a big clutch of cars all trying to vie for position, that becomes a little bit more tricky on the tight twisty section, because the gear circuit here at Macau has got just about everything, hasn't it? Every single challenge that could be thrown at a driver, it's got it all. It's got the fast, very, very fast sweeps of straights and braking into an overtaking position, and also the tight, twisty and really quite challenging twisty sections of the Macau circuit, including, you don't get this many places in the world, a place that you're not allowed to overtake for the entire duration of the weekend, just because well, it wouldn't work, would it? There is barely space to get around. It's 7 metres in width, the track up there at Macau hairpin, and it's under a constant yellow flag, which means no overtaking at the Macau hairpin. But then, once you've done that, you accelerate, the track opens up, it gets wider and wider, quicker and quicker, and you get this thrilling end to the lap, and then a thrilling start to the next lap.
Now, yesterday in qualifying, Freddie Slater ended up as the fastest on a 2 minutes 15.7, so that's your benchmark time. Enzo Deligny in the white car was first out. That's Matteo De Paolo behind him, Jin Nakamura, and then Murray Boyer ahead of Teo Nayal, the 2 blue cars now, the second of them. That's Freddie Slater, who was just coming into shot in the red and white livery in the background, and you can see drivers here trying to urge a bit more warmth into the Pirelli rubber, get the pressures up as well. But from here on in, we're on the attack now. These are proper flying laps. 1 or 2 coming back into the pit lane, in fact, one of whom is Hiyu Yawakoshi, who in FP1 yesterday lost a wheel, and then in the qualifying session had an accident. Another driver who crashed yesterday in qualifying, Reza Seaworthen, that car repaired as well, so he'll be wanting to try to put that behind him and get the mileage in today. A couple of cars back into the pit lane. Oscar Wirtz also coming in, largely just to make the odd tweak or give some data back to the team. Others press on, including Matteo De Paolo, and we're riding with him here, Alan.
It was thrilling yesterday, running on board with De Paolo, and once again, this is the part of the circuit that really is so telling as to what the driver is going through, with the barriers, the left and the right, and they kind of almost suck you in, don't they? Yep. It is so fascinating to ride on board, and also to the application of the throttle in this section of the circuit. And the smooth application of throttle is just so vital on this part of the circuit, turning into that tight right-hander as they go into police up towards Moorish, and then into the long left-hander Donna Maria, and after this heading down towards the Macau hairpin, that no overtaking zone, twisting the car, turn to the right, to be so precise and careful. However, if you get a good run through Melco, this run down as the circuit opens up and you open up the throttle, this could set you up for the end of a very good lap, but more importantly, sets you up for the start of a very good lap.
And it all happens here. This is where you pull the pin, isn't it? So as you say, this is where the road opens up. Suddenly you've got 4 lanes of width. De Pallo's still trying to warm up the tyres as he comes down towards our bend. But we're going to get closer and closer to representative times now as Deligny goes across the line. So Enzo Deligny does a 2:27 as his first offering, and obviously there's more to come. But let's have a look at him now as he comes out of Reservoir down towards Mandarin. Others still coming out of the pit lane. And Enzo Deligny then down towards that very fast, it looks like a kink on the map, but it's a full-on corner of Mandarin down towards Lisboa. This 6-kilometre long circuit has 5 sectors. He's about to come to the end of the first of them, and that is under braking for Lisboa right now, Alan.
Into the right-hander at Lisboa, where for so many years we've seen great overtaking manoeuvres work and sometimes not work down at Lisboa, but it certainly is the overtaking opportunity. The speed they carry down from, as you say, that incredible corner at Mandarin, so quick, and then the run down into braking for Lisboa. San Francisco is next, and then this twisty section, the run up towards Maternity, the left-hander that runs towards Maternity, and then down towards Teddy Ip, which is the left-hander, and one of the names so synonymous with the Macau Grand Prix over the years. And Teddy Ip's house was down there, the corner named after Teddy Ip, and then into the Solitude S's, where you turn right, you turn left, you turn right, you turn left, and then into Police and Moorish. 2 right-handers so often catch you out because you can see there quite clearly how close you are to the guardrail on the exits of Moorish into Donna Maria, the long left-hander, but it's still quite a narrow part of the circuit into the most narrow part of the circuit. This Melco hairpin, thread your way around there, avoid the barrier on the exit, apply the power, and now I'm sure this is where the single-seater drivers think, right, this is my bit, I love this. This is where we get quicker and quicker and quicker into our bend, the conclusion of a lap up towards the start-finish line, the end of one lap, and then into the start of the next.
So this is Enzo Deligny then up towards the timing line. Kiyoshi Umagari, who I think also had an accident yesterday, is currently the fastest, but Deligny is about to obliterate that time because that's a 2:17.9. And that is a couple of seconds down on what Freddie Slater was doing in qualifying. But this being pre-practice, what we don't know is whether or not they're on a used set of tyres. I would imagine they are, in order to keep a fresher set for the all-important qualifying session later on in the day. So Deligny is the fastest from Jin Nakamura. Matteo De Pallo has gone third. And there's another wave of driver to come, including Freddie Slater, who goes up to second. He's just gone by, but he's 3/10 down on Deligny. They get 4 sets of tyres for the purposes of the weekend. Ideally, they want to try and keep the freshest of rubber for the Grand Prix itself, but some of the way of working out when to use the new sets of tyres are going to be dependent a bit on where you qualify. So then you need to keep a set for at least one qualifying session.
31.5 minutes of this qualifying session remain, and amalgamated with qualifying from yesterday for
red flag out, sorry.
I beg your pardon, red flag. Oh dear. And it's for the number 24 car, which is the car of Kanato Lee, who competed in part of the 2025 GB3 season, and had good results at Spa when he did compete, finishing first, second and third over the course of that weekend, and also competing in FR Euro, finishing 14th place. Last year here at Macau, competed and qualified 27th, was 19th in the qualification race, and then a DNF in the Grand Prix last year for Kanato Lee. But he's a good driver. Unfortunately, this session, free practice, not going according to plan.
Too much speed carried in, loses the car, clatters into the concrete, and then hits the barriers again. But he's already damaged both front and rear of the right-hand suspension. So Kanato Lee just overstepped the mark slightly with very serious consequences. That is him done for the session. That's going to put him on the back foot going into qualifying, and it gives the team, which is the ART Grand Prix squad, a lot of work to do.
It's not that long until qualifying. We made the point earlier on. 2:30 is when they have Q2, and the amalgamated qualifying times from yesterday, end of yesterday afternoon, and this afternoon's session form the grid for the qualification race on Saturday, and the results of that form the grid for the Grand Prix on Sunday. The highlights of the afternoon, all the build-up, everything that these drivers that are here for the first time will have not seen before. They'll never have seen the like of the build-up to this race.
So cars back to the pits. There you've got number 10 of Hiro Yamakoshi. After his troubled day yesterday, Yamakoshi at the moment is a fair way down the order, but he will improve, no doubt, as the session resumes. So a quarter gone, but the car sitting in the pit lane. This is Mari Boyer bringing the car back to the pit lane, heading up to the hairpin. And the red flag, I'm afraid to say, is being shown for the third time today. And this is only our second session of the morning. That's Theo Niel's car sitting in the pit lane, the very quick French driver. Another one who's come from Formula 3 into the Macau Grand Prix this year. Go back 2 years ago, Theo Niel was the Formula 4 champion in Spain and 8th in FIA Formula 3 this season. Evan Gilter, number 22, another of the ART Grand Prix drivers. Gilter, we're not really focused on yet, but he was the Middle East Formula Regional champion at the start of this year, so he, in theory, ought to be one of the front runners here. And that's the fastest man thus far, Enzo Deligny then, for the R-Ace GP team. He was third in the European Formula Regional champion.
It's a busy sporting week here in Macau, not just the Macau Grand Prix, where the Macau Grand Prix pretty much every year for this week, or probably fortnight, including the week leading up to Grand Prix week, kind of takes over the whole of Macau. But this week as well, Macau is part of the National Games here, and this region, Great Bay Area region of the country, is very much involved and very proudly part of the National Games. So as far as sport, if you're a sports fan in this part of the world, you've got quite a treat of a week. You can pick where you're going. I think there are quite a few school trips here to Macau, to yesterday and today. You can see them, all the school children very excited in the grandstands over the course of yesterday and today, and I'm sure they'll get the opportunity to enjoy the National Games as well. So a very busy sporting couple of weeks here in Macau, and you can see the grandstands. This is day 2 of 4 for the 72nd Macau Grand Prix. As ever, the grandstands absolutely packed and enjoying the action that they provide for us today. And they were packed in the grandstands yesterday, and we only had 2 qualifying sessions. It was all about free practice, but the unique opportunity to see cars competing on the streets of Macau, certainly for the locals, is something that's well worth watching. But also from far and wide, people come from all over the world for this event. It's such a lovely event. Right, we've got the 24 car now being lifted up, and Kanato Lee's car being taken to a place of safety, so that brings us a little bit closer to the resumption of this free practice session. And of course, it being free practice as opposed to qualifying, the clock continues to count down, so we're now just over 26 minutes of this session remaining. It's Charlie Wirtz down in pit lane. They remain focused, don't they, during these breaks in the action, and that's absolutely what they have to do. Single-seater drivers like no other. You could be walking around the car, you know, and you've got a camera crew with you, you've got a microphone with you. They don't even notice you. The peripheral vision, I'm sure they've had to work incredibly hard to ignore everything that goes on around them, but they need to stay, and they say, in the zone, don't they?
Yes, harder, I think, isn't it, trying to talk to single-seater drivers on a grid here than GT drivers or touring car drivers, for example. Partly perhaps because they're not used to it. They don't get grid interviews in the same way that GT or touring car drivers would, but equally the focus is completely there, ready for the Grand Prix, and they've gone through that build-up, as you say, where all the drivers are introduced to the chief executive of the Macau SAR. Right, so that's Kanato Lee's crumpled car about to be taken off the circuit. There's a little vehicle access point there. So the recovery vehicle will back into it, and in less than a minute's time, we are going to be back in business. That's only cost us round about 5-6 minutes. It's not that time consuming, but we're going to lose another 2.5 minutes or so for an out lap, aren't we? And then a flying lap. And the first flying lap won't be that rapid because they're still trying to warm the tyres up again.
Heat back into tyres, that's the important thing, isn't
Yeah.
it? And they've been down there in pit lane for a good few minutes, so they won't be at optimum temperature. Fortunately, they've got this out lap 6-kilometre circuit this here at Macau, and you can see as well that view looking over towards the pit lane, just how windy it is as well. The trees blowing around. It's been quite a windy week here in this region. There's a few weather warnings earlier on in the week for wind and rain. The good news is that we had those warnings over Grand Prix weekend last year, and it's good news that the weather forecast for today, tomorrow and for Sunday, Grand Prix day, it gets better and better, and full sunshine is the forecast. And I've checked back a few times over the last couple of days and it has remained that. So sunny and about 25-26 degrees. It's going to be hot work on Grand Prix day.
So everybody heading back out onto the circuit. Again, look, some of the teams holding back the cars, so they're not going to get involved with traffic. They can have a little bit of breathing space, and once more there's quite a bit of weaving to go on, but hopefully drivers will be respectful of the circuit. We had in the earlier F4 session one driver snagging the wall and crashing into the barriers on an out lap, and things like that tend not to go down awfully well. So the teams, the race control team as well, will be wanting the drivers just to be respectful on the out lap. Somebody there's got a problem at the end of the pit lane by the look of it, and has not got away, and there's a traffic jam building up behind. Now the car gets going. Thought I'd seen others going around the outside to accelerate away, but maybe that's to...
They seem to all be doing it to buy a bit of track space,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
I'm not quite sure it's a practice start thing.
I'm not sure it's allowed, is it?
No, but on a corner I don't think you'd really achieve very much by doing a practice start, and also it's still a bit damp at that end of the pit lane, so I think you're right. It's to, if you do accelerate away like that, you're helping to get a bit more temperature through things, but also you're right, it does allow you to get the traffic to clear away. There's a car that has stopped and others are going around the outside, so maybe they are, yeah, it's a kind of practice start. It's got the tyre marks there just to assess really where the biting point is on the clutch, because it'll be a standing start, of course, for Grand Prix.
Because not everyone on this grid this year has been in a Formula Regional car all year. And that's something that we've seen for many years at the Macau Grand Prix. You could have moved on.
I've got a horrible feeling we've got a car off. There's a yellow flag showing at Moorish, and it's at turn 17. So it's around this part of the track. You saw the yellow light, you saw the yellow flag. So something has happened already on an out lap. And that was more than just the yellow flag being shown in advance of the anachronistic Melco hairpin, wasn't it?
It's part of what you have to go through over the course of the Macau Grand Prix weekend, and that is getting the heat back into tyres after a stop down in pit lane.
What am I looking at that's brought out a yellow flag? Is there a car in the barrier? Is that blue and yellow? Yes, there is a car on the barrier. Coming back from the escape road, it was Deligny, wasn't it? Enzo Deligny, number 5, first one out.
Yes.
So Enzo Deligny's trying to rejoin. You can see the marshal saying to people, slow down. They're trying to keep the session going here. And Enzo Deligny's going to try to fire up the engine and get going if he can. Race control giving him time to get going. The marshal seeing if there's a gap in the traffic, and then hopefully can wave him on, but risky times.
It is. It's really slowed down Mary Boyer, hasn't it? We're riding on board with him, and he really is pressing on now.
Right, Deligny's away and going, so that's worked really well. And well done, race control, for not having a panic and saying, car off, stop the session. They gave him time to get going. Marshall's worked well to find a gap in the traffic for him. Let's go back on board with Mary Boyer then, because he is on a mission. We've not really had anything representative out of Boyer right now. He's climbing up San Francisco Hill. And this next part of the circuit, Alan, every year, two off at Lisboa that have gone straight on, but that part of the circuit, heading up towards the Solitude S's, always seems rather confusing, because the corners look so similar, doesn't it, as you thread left and right and left and right and left and right. the two teammates that have gone straight on here, both trying to sort themselves out. Escape road friends, yeah. We'll worry about them in a moment. This is Murray Boyer, meanwhile.
Who is very committed from the moment he did the conclusion of the outlap from pit lane after the restart of this session. He was absolutely on it. And Murray Boyer, look at this. If ever you wanted to feel like you're riding on the top part of the Macau gear circuit, this is it. Murray Boyer really committed on this one, into the right-hander at Police, on towards Moorish, and then Donna Maria, and the conclusion of the lap, the long left-hander at Donna Maria, and down towards the Melco hairpin. This is commitment that you require. Neat and tidy through the Melco hairpin, that's key, absolutely key to getting a good lap. And then the run down towards Black Sands and Fisherman's, the right-hander into Fisherman's, and this is where the circuit opens out. 4 lanes of traffic in the most parts of the year here at Macau, and for 4 days of every year it becomes the widest part of the gear circuit. Up towards the line for Murray Boyer, and a red flag comes out once again. He goes top, 2:17.730, but that is a damaged car at Macau,
to say the least. Matteo De Palo had gone top, but Murray Boyer's time in just before the red flag came out. That's a big accident at Fisherman's. You can see where it starts because there's a bite taken out of the recticel. It's finished midway, it feels, between Fisherman's and our bend. I'll try and work out in a second who it is, but that's a big, big impact. It's number 9 that has crashed, so that means that it is Oscar Wirtz, and that is a big, big shunt. So he's hit the wall at least once. The car scuttled down away from Fisherman's, and with debris on the circuit and a car that needs moving, the session is stopped, and very few, of course, got a flying lap in. Yet again, those teams that are at the pit out end have the advantage.
They do have the advantage, and also what we saw from Murray Boyer, and it was quite a treat to ride on board during that lap, the lap that sees Murray Boyer on top of the times now with a 2:17.7. But you have to do it as soon as you can, and that's going to be something that carries over into qualifying this afternoon, because this is not unusual. We have a stoppage and then another stoppage. We could have had it earlier on with Enzo Dellini, but really good control from race control, allowing the marshals to assist to get that car going again, and it paid off, didn't it?
Yeah,
it did pay off.
But in a situation like that, where the car is utterly broken and there's debris on the road, your options are limited.
There's only one. There's only one option.
26 there is Tassanapodin Pupubasak, who was a winner twice in FIA Formula 3 this season gone. Let's have a look at Oscar Wirtz then. So he comes down towards Fisherman's, fights the wheel, that pushes the car wide, runs out of width, bang, he goes into the recticel, and he's broken, as you see, the left-hand side of the car, and ends up not quite in the wall, actually. So it's bad, but it wasn't as bad as I was fearing initially. So Oscar Wirtz, he's going to be hopping out of the car, but that gives the team a lot of work to do. Evans GP, Mitch Evans' team, he drives for, and other cars, Kiryu Yamakoshi, who had an accident yesterday, so they've had to rebuild one, now they've got another one, and the third car, Oscar Wirtz's brother, Charlie Wirtz.
Any connection that you have with the circuit furniture, from Fisherman's down to our bend, down to Mandarin, even the tiniest of touches is going to be pretty damaging to the car, and sometimes when you get the first sight of the aftermath of an accident, it could give you the impression that maybe the accident was a huge accident. That was just the smallest of touches, wasn't it? But it bites, and it damages the car and gives the team quite a bit to do before 2:30 Macau will go for.
It shows again the importance of being absolutely inch perfect, because Wirtz wasn't that far off his line, but it was far enough to have really serious consequences.
And it's the tiniest of margins. I said 2:30 before, I think they've got even less time. It's 1:30 local time for qualifying for the F4 World Cup, and then 2:30 for the FR World Cup.
And this is what was going on down at Lisboa. That was Charlie Wirtz, I think, who went straight on. and then presumably Yamakoshi arrived on the scene, but it was certainly 2 of 3 Evans GP cars. It's been quite a checkered session for them.
Sometimes I suppose that can happen if somebody is going straight on in front of you and you can't quite make the turn, you have to do it as well. So no option really.
So Oscar Wirtz with a damaged car. So for the Evans GP team, things have gone from bad to worse. Still, there's always qualifying, so if at first you don't succeed, there's qualifying to come. Got 2 more days of this hide yet.
Had you planned that?
No.
Just came to you.
Yes, I'm just naturally rubbish at this. Yes. That red flag did no favours whatsoever for Kiyoshi Umegaki, who had done an absolute best in the first sector, but the lap couldn't have finished because that came the red flag. Number 18 having a quick tweak is Takaya Suzuki's car. That's coming out of the Tom's Formula stable. Macau debutant Takaya Suzuki, the Japanese driver, who's been racing in Formula 4 and Formula Regional in Japan. There's Enzo Dellini then, who seen going up the escape road, having missed his braking point over at Moorish, and then being able to back out and rejoin.
Cold tyres are such a feature, aren't they, when you get these sessions back underway. And however high up the order you are, it can catch you out. So catch you out really, really quickly. Having a look down at the number 19 car of Mattia Konagi in the PHM Racing entered car. Champion in Euro Cup 3 this year with 5 wins to his credit. Second in the Spanish E-Cup Winter Series, and in 2024 the F4 Spanish champion. Quite a pedigree for Mattia.
Now the clock is still ticking, of course, because of this red flag. We're down to 13 minutes. I'm not convinced they're going to get very many flying laps in at all once we go green. We don't yet have a restart time because that can't be offered up until the clear-up is done. We've got a car to move, we've got debris to sort out as well. Well, that's the first bit. What's left of the car, the Tatius T318 chassis, being craned away. That wheel looks rather precarious.
But the team will want to see that car as soon as they possibly can, can't they? Because let's just say that again. They qualified this afternoon at 2:30. The time is coming up to 11:15 local time. That's not a huge turnaround for the teams to rebuild quite a few components on that car.
Yeah, they'll want it back as soon as, and the car's out of the way, debris to be swept, but a restart time we don't yet have, and 12 minutes are on the clock. Enzo Ye ready to go. He is a very impressive 8th in the times at the moment for the driver from Chinese Taipei. And down in the pit lane, the Tatius constructor representative gets his invoice book out, goes to see Evans, GP. There is the surviving Wirtz, Charlie Wirtz. The 2 Wirtz brothers, of course, son of Alex, former Grand Prix racer, grandson of Franz Wirtz, Austrian rallycross hero of the 70s and early 80s. And Charlie Wirtz currently 12th in the times.
Proper sunshine here at Macau now. Feels much more like Macau feels, with the sunshine drenching the circuit on the start-finish line. The grid hatching's just underneath us here on the at the commentary box, and the circuit staff, the marshals, at least a dozen of them down there, making sure that any debris is swept off the circuit, and also making sure that the rector cell is back to how it should be before we can get the session back underway, for which we have ever decreasing time. 11 minutes left on the clock now. And it's Barry Boyer with that lap that we were privileged to ride on board with, top of the time, 2:17.7 so far in free practice. And I reckon if we get this session back underway for maybe 6 minutes, then we will get fireworks. Few fast laps around the gear circuit, maybe get an idea of what's going to happen in qualifying this afternoon.
Freddie Slater currently 4th in the times. Get ready to go. And 23 is the car of Taita Kato, who went well yesterday in the first free practice session. Kumasato there giving guidance, having been doing the same for his son in F4. His driver coach duties continue. Right, do we have a restart time? Not yet. What's on the clock? Under 10 minutes. They're not going to get much in, are they? So drivers frustrated, teams frustrated, and it puts the pressure on going into qualifying. There at the Prema Racing team that operates here under the SJM Theodore Prema Racing banner. Rashid Al-Dahari sits ready to go, and you saw his mechanic looking at his watch thinking, come on, we're running out of time. So Kanato Lee causing the first stoppage, and Oscar Wirtz the second. And there is Noah Stromstead, who was good yesterday in qualifying, worked his way up the order, but Stromstead returning to Formula Regional hasn't really been able to do anything in this session. He's not been able to get a lap time in. Stromstead waits. So the school visits in the grandstand, and now that they've found themselves on the cameras, then great delight reigns as they can have a wave and a cheer.
Big screens opposite the grandstand, and the elation when you see yourself on telly. Very excitable, incredibly well behaved, the kids that come on these trips every year to the Macau Grand Prix, and you can't help but smile when you walk past the excitable children. It's just superb.
Yeah, I never got taken to a motor race when I was at school. I think we went to Martin Mia Bird Sanctuary, but that was about it. We are under a minute away from the session getting back underway. So it's 10:46 and change, and at 10:47 and 30, the green lights should go on. So the team's given just a little bit of notice so they can get the engines fired up, and the teams will be on their toes then, ready to release the cars. You can see the mechanics standing ready with now less than 30 seconds to go to get the session back underway, and that's going to give us just about 7.5 minutes when we are given the signal. So it is almost worth now not going for a time, isn't it? Just drive round and learn the circuit.
If we can run this to the checkered flag now without interruption, then you can do good work for these final few laps of free practice. Set yourself up for 2:30 and the second section of qualifying, and everyone wants to leave once again at the same time. They thread their way down the pit lane out onto the gear circuit, and let's remember one thing: cold tyres. They've been down in pit lane for a little while. The heat has dissipated. They've got 6 kilometres to get these tyres back up to working temperature. Let's hope that everything goes according to plan, and we can run without interruption now to the checkered flag.
Not sure too many are going to go to that practice start zone this time. I think they've all got to be out on track, won't they? Try and get some mileage in. 7 minutes, as Alan was saying, they qualify at 2:30, but prior to that there are GT4 touring cars and Formula 4 cars out on circuit, and after the FR qualifying we've got the GT Cup session. So it's a busy day again on the gear circuit, and with the temperatures rising, the sun shining, drivers go back out, and 6.5 minutes are on the clock. Enzo Deligny always first out, because as the winning team from last year, they positioned themselves at pit out. RHGP will always be able to get the car out on track, and it's been pretty useful for Deligny, although at the moment he is not the quickest, as we've been seeing Murray Boyer at the top of the times.
So here we go. This is a critical part of free practice and qualifying. Is this outlap from pit lane, just weaving the cars as much as you can, finding a bit of track space, and making sure that nothing goes wrong on cold tyres. The good news is that with the ambient temperature going up and the sunshine, a little bit easier to get into the tyres than we saw this time yesterday. It was a little bit cooler, a lot more blowing as well. It was much more windy yesterday. The trees just opposite our commentary box are much stiller today. It's been a windy and blustery week heading up to the 72nd Macau Grand Prix. And little bit of rain overnight has made a slightly more challenging circuit first thing in the morning. Green circuit for F4 free practice earlier on, and now a drying circuit, ever increasing drying, so you can use the full width of the circuit now to weave the car, try and get those tyres up to temperature, and here we go.
So Matteo De Palo comes over the timing line, goes onto a flying lap, and goes now through that very fast left of Reservoir, speed building down towards Mandarin, which is a very, very quick right. It is, if you look at a map, a kink, but it's a full-on corner in real terms, especially at these speeds. You will, as the weekend goes on, find drivers running right up against the barriers. We had a large accident in the GT free practice 1 session yesterday there, Lawrence Fanthorpe. And then it's hard on the brakes at the end of this long, fast section down towards Lisboa. And from here on in, you're climbing up the hill and you're on narrower roads, aren't you? Because the width disappears.
Tighter and tighter and tighter on the run up towards the hospital on the left-hand side now. It's run underneath the bridge towards Maternity, and then on towards Teddy Ip, and then the Solitude S's, where you really do feel the barriers getting closer and closer, and your peripheral vision, when you're running at these sort of speeds that Freddie Slater is now, just become more and more tunnel vision, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, Lisboa, every time we do an onboard, reinforces the point. You cannot see the corner. Yeah. You don't know what's the other side of it until you've gone through that 90-degree right-hander. It is no wonder there are incidents there. That is a really challenging corner.
It really is, and a great overtaking place as well. Riding on board with Freddie Slater, which we did yesterday, was a bit of a treat, wasn't it? The European Formula Regional champion for 2025 and champion in so many categories since he's come into car racing just a few years ago. Absolutely dominated Janetta Juniors in his first year of single-seater car racing and of car racing, and then into single-seaters has been dominant as well. He's really one to look out for, and riding on board with Freddie Slater now, that's what you mean by it gets tighter and tighter into the right-hander at Police and Moorish. One corner very quickly after another. The long left-hander at Donna Maria.
Now let's see what Enzo Deligny can do. He goes over the timing line, goes quickest, 2:16.957. So Deligny chased by Matteo De Palo, who's up to second on a 2:17.5. We need a Mari Boyer lap to throw into this, as Jin Nakamura has just gone second. Mari Boyer comes through now in the blue car, goes quickest, 2:16.781.
Freddie Slater will as well. He's got two purples, Sector 2 and Sector 4, and we're back on board to complete the lap now with Freddie Slater. Is he going to be top at the end of this across the line? He will come and complete the lap.
Got traffic up the road, hasn't he?
Let's see what he does. 2 purple sectors, 2 green sectors. Freddie Slater goes top at 2:16.552, and once again the treat of riding the majority of that lap on board with Freddie Slater. You could see the commitment, couldn't you?
Totally. And he had to get past a couple of cars, one before Fisherman's, one before our bend. Didn't phase him, as they're coming down towards Fisherman's is Mattia Colnaghi. We've just had one car for the pit lane, but there's another lap to be squeezed out of this, so it's Slater from Boyer by 0.229 of a second. Right now we've got the leading 4 covered by less than a second, and 4th is Taito Kato, who is still up there. Red flag again, but another accident with 1.5 minutes to go. That's the end of the session, and that is a huge off down at Fisherman's that has destroyed Zenrui Chi's car. You can see there's damage to the back, there's damage to the front. That's the end of the session. There's no chance of getting things back underway, and that looks like a very badly damaged car indeed. So session is stopped, session is over, and Zenrui Chi, or Newman Chi as he calls himself in the Van Amersfoort car, making his Macau debut, has had a big off and brings out our 3rd red flag of the session. So they'll make their way to the pit lane and session is done. Big frustration for the teams.
Didn't we say, though, that you really have to make it count? As soon as you're released from pit lane, you come back out onto the circuit, you are committed to getting the temperature back into the tyres, and we saw it beautifully from Freddie Slater. One opportunity to get a lap in, and he did it. So, okay, it's maybe not so important for free practice that we've just enjoyed here at Macau, but at 2:30 when we're qualifying, we could be going through the same kind of stoppages and restart, and you have to make it count as soon as you're released.
I'd like to see how Newman Chi ended up there, because that clearly was a more significant impact than it was for Oscar Wirtz. But anyway, we know there's a lot of damage done to the VAR, Van Amersfoort Racing car. And Matteo De Paolo then makes his way back into the pit lane. This is the order at the end of FP2. Then Freddie Slater ahead by 0.229 of a second from Murray Boy. Enzo Deligny third. Taito Kato fourth. Jin Nakamura fifth. Jose Garfias sixth from Matteo De Paolo. Matteo Colnaghi, Rashid Al-Dakhari and Charlie Wirtz to round out the top 10. 11th in the times. James Egotzi ahead of Tokiyo Suzuki. Hiro Yamakoshi 13th. Noah Stromsted 14th. And previous Grand Prix winner from F4, Charles Leung 15th. Enzo Ye was ahead of Yuki Sano and Owen Tangavelu. Kayoshi Umagaki was next. A little bit further down. Teo Nail barely got a time in at all, did he? And we expect him to be quick. Nothing recorded either by Reza Seaworthen, Tasana Polin for Puvasak. And that's not because they're crashing, it's because they're just not getting across the line before the red flags are coming out, partly because they're at the back of the queue to get onto the circuit. So quite a lot of frustration for a number of drivers, but delight for Freddie Slater. He came here as one of the favourites, and having been quickest in qualifying yesterday, he tops the second free practice session here at the 72nd running of the Macau Grand Prix.